You chose absolutely right tuning into Rwanda Television News tonight. Many thanks for joining us in today's edition. And we do hope you had yourselves a great and productive day, but also a great start to your brand new week. And now, this is what makes our top stories. Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente expressed the need for increased cooperation between African countries in order to make most out of existing development opportunities. The East African Legislative Assembly has expressed optimism in finding a lasting solution for security issues in eastern DRC. And to international matters, the Malawi government has partnered with UN Children's Agency UNICEF and the mobile service provider to help students in rural Malawi to learn how to use the latest digital technology. And good evening to you once again, and it's my great honor and privilege to have your company tonight. As we start off our edition, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente expressed the need for increased cooperation between African countries in order to make most out of existing development opportunities. The Rwandan Prime Minister revealed this on Monday as he officially opened the Kigali Economic Forum taking place in the Kigali Convention Center. We have the details. Trade is one of the most occupations on the African continent. However, the profitability is still minimal to the citizens, as cited by Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente.
Nous ne pouvons pas nous développer de manière effective sans une approche régionale.
We cannot fully develop without cooperating. Intra-African trade is still at as low as 15%, while the continent's trade with the rest of the world is at 85%. Trade between African countries is extremely important in speeding up development.
Car il permet d'accroître le contenu technologique des exportations.
The African continent has the biggest youth population. Some of them say that they are committed to making use of available opportunities.
Tugaragarijwe mbese uruhare urubyiruko rwagira.
We have been shown the role of the youth in solving emerging issues on the continent. We are well educated and supported to solve issues on the continent. Going abroad is not the most important thing for the youth. We should make use of opportunities at hand instead of rushing to develop other foreign nations.
The
Prime Minister further reiterated that African youth should be cared for.
Plusieurs experts s'accordent à reconnaître à l'Afrique l'atout qu'est la jeunesse.
Experts agree that Africa has a lot of potential with a large number of young people. However, we can all agree that these young people must be well educated in order to benefit the continent, be creative and productive.
Permettent d'entrer sur le marché du travail et d'être suffisamment productive.
Jean-Hervé Lorenzi, founder of this economic forum, reiterates other priorities that the continent should not leave behind.
Nous sommes convaincus tous que l'avenir de l'économie mondiale se situe en Afrique.
The African continent is the future of global economy, and we should analyze how we can enable investment in 54 African countries in all sectors, including infrastructure.
Évidemment, les investissements en matière d'infrastructure.
The participants of this economic forum will also discuss strategies that can help Africa in particular to deal with global shocks that continue to threaten its economy. To other matters, the governor of the Central Bank of Rwanda has told parliamentarians that the harvest from this current agriculture season give confidence that food prices in the country's markets will not continue rising as they have, and Rwanda's food imports will also reduce. He made the comments while presenting the bank's 2022-2023 report. John Gwangonga told the parliamentarians that despite global woes such as the war in Ukraine, the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change, Rwanda's economy still grew as much as 8.1% during the 2022-2023 fiscal year, largely thanks to the service sector.
ariko icyo twishimira ni uko myaka ibiri ishize ubukungu bw'u Rwanda bwakomeje kuzamuka ku gipimo gishimishije.
We are happy about the fact that over the last 2 years, Rwanda's economy has continued to grow at an encouraging rate because, as you can see, during the fiscal year we are reporting on, which is 2022-2023, it grew by more than 8%, similar to the way it was during the previous fiscal year. Because despite the problems that had occurred centering around inflation, it became necessary that we as the central bank make decisions that support other government and international initiatives to lower it. New loans from commercial banks increased by as much as 37.2%.
Inshyashya zazamutse 37.7%.
With the agriculture sector struggling due to the effects of climate change, calls were made to put in place measures that support it, such as specialized loans for farmers. Concerning agriculture, I believe all our concerns center around the fact that there are still problems to do with irrigation that would allow farmers to grow crops all year round. When it comes to inflation, the agriculture sector, plagued by effects of climate change, helps to drive it. My question, therefore, has to do with what sort of support is being provided to farmers, such as the interest rate on the loans that they take, and how they can be motivated to work harder and help to bring our prices under control.
In the end,
ongoing government efforts to support the agriculture sector have been paying off, but challenges have also remained significant. This is the first time we have gone 4 seasons in a row with the agriculture sector underperforming because of the effects of climate change, and that obviously played a significant role on the inflation of food prices, with average figures during that fiscal year at 41.8%, as you can see here. But they did spike even higher at different points in time, reaching as high as 58%. The annual report indicates that non-performing loans in commercial banks fell to 6.3% as of June this year, compared to 4.3% at the same time during the previous fiscal year, while microfinance institutions fell from 4.7% to 3.7%. To curb inflationary pressure, the National Bank of Rwanda tightened the monetary policy by increasing the central bank rate, CBR, from 5% in June 2022 to 7% by June 2023. And as a result of this and other government policies, inflation was on a downward trend at the end of the financial year.
We'll keep it to the Parliament. The plenary session of the Senate approved the basis of the draft law regulating elections, which depicts that presidential and parliamentary elections will be synchronized. The Minister of Local Government, Jean-Claude Musabyimana, expressed the benefits that the country will get from intertwining the elections.
The first reason is to comply with the Constitution, which reiterates that presidential and parliamentary elections should be synchronized. The old organic law had some elements and articles that contradicted with the Constitution, and we are changing that. At the same time, we are changing the writings and meanings in the new organic law. An example is the way people with disabilities used to be addressed, and also election facilitators who were previously called National Electoral Commission workers, yet they are actually elected volunteers. We corrected all that. Those are the only changes in the new organic law.
The basis of the law governing presidential and parliamentary elections was approved by the Chamber of Deputies a week ago and will amend the organic law number 001 of 2019 of 29th of July 2019 regulating presidential and parliamentary elections. Ahead to other matters, the East African Legislative Assembly says that the security issues in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo will be resolved in the near future due to the commitment of regional leaders. The EALA MPs are going to spend 2 weeks in Rwanda in the parliamentary activities. Adam Squizera has the details.
The members of the East African Legislative Assembly EALA, the legislative arm of the East African Community EAC, are convening in Kigali to deliberate on regional affairs. Their 2-week-long meeting will take place at the Parliament of Rwanda's premises in Kigali, whereas the meeting includes sittings of the Assembly's standing committees and plenary. The Speaker of the EALA, Joseph Nachirutimana, says that the member countries are concerned about the security issues in the Democratic Republic of Congo, whereas he believes that according to the line given by the leaders of the regional countries, there is a hope that it will be addressed soon. The legislators from DRC share activities in committees and plenary sessions. Where it is not possible, it is this we are doing here in Kigali, Rwanda. But they wrote to us and told us that they will not come to Kigali, but they will follow it virtually. It will not damage anything, because we will do it. We hope that the problem between Rwanda and DRC will be over, because what we want is to find a solution very soon. This assembly also wants the troops of the EAC to not withdraw from the eastern DRC at the beginning of December next month, as this country wished, since this would seriously threaten the security of the local residents in this country. Instead, the withdrawal of these troops should be done gradually. Among the other questions asked by the journalist who attended this press conference, the issue of the member countries' contribution was also reiterated, plus the countries that do not accept the use of ID for immigration, which hinders the flow of people and services, the unimplemented single currency system, cross-border corruption, telecommunication services, and others.
And matters of political nature and security nature, like the issue of political situation in DRC, that are even at the level of the summit, members of EALA are not expected to indulge in such matters because we have a clear mandate of representing all our citizens. He also went to say that the security situation in the Eastern DRC is already at the level of the summit. As you are aware, this region has initiated the Nairobi Peace Process, which is led by our former head of state, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, and this matter is reported from time to time at the level of the summit, and therefore the members of DRC who have been working with us in various committee activities and even plenary, in his view, do not have a reason of not attending. But he said that they have committed that they will not be here physically, but they'll be able to attend virtually.
Our main issue, as we are in this plenary, is to hold accountable our Council of Ministers and by extension our partner states, so that they tell us about the bills that have been passed but have not been implemented. There are several bills and motions that have come to the floor of the House. Even before we came to this, we came to EALA, those of our colleagues that were there before, because this is the 5th EALA. So there is the first, the second, the third, up to us. And there are bills and motions that have been passed, but the problem is the implementation.
It is the second time that the members of the East African Legislative Assembly, EALA, have moved the activities of the parliament to Kigali. Their 2-week-long meeting took place from November 23rd till December 7th. Among the activities at the plenary level is the consideration of the EA Supplemental Appropriation No. 3 Bill 2023, which is legislation that seeks to allocate more funds to specific organs or institutions of the community, plus receiving reports and different commissions, and visit some of the projects that were established for the development of member countries. 63 MPs from the 6 countries are the ones who attended, while those from DRC will not be in Kigali. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
Children rights activists across the world find that it is time to speak up and take appropriate measures to deal with the issue of child recruitment and use in wars. This was reiterated in the Dallaire Institute for Children as Soldiers, a symposium taking place here in Rwanda. Adam Squizera with more.
The escalation of the 2016 fightings in South Sudan, a 15-year-old Kumi Patrick found himself in the military. He says that it is difficult to be a child soldier because apart from the physical consequences, it mostly affects the child's mental health.
You don't have the freedom, you always feel sad, you are always confused, and because you don't longer go to school, you are not sure if you'll wake up the following day, and it's quite strange. And people going through conflict have suffered and are still suffering. So being a child soldier, it's not an easy thing. And it takes cost to be part of it.
Patrick Kumi later escaped and fled to northern Uganda, where he is currently living as a refugee. This is where he found similar ground, an advocacy organization against the recruitment and use of children in armed conflicts. Poverty, bad governance that does not protect children, abuse in families, refugees, and loss of parents and relatives are among of the factors that attracts those children to join armed groups as the only way to make a revenge.
One thing to put note is to involve these children, involve the young people in generating the ideas on how we can prevent conflicts and support conflicts. When everyone who is part of the problem is brought in, we'll find the concrete solutions. We'll find the concrete ways on how we can move together.
Together with his colleague, they decided to deliver a message through songs, and today they were invited to give their opinion at an international conference like this happening in Kigali, organized by Dallaire Institute for Children, Peace and Security. The executive director of the Dallaire Institute for Children, Peace and Security, Dr. Shelley Whitman, says that much has been done through international agreements aimed at protecting children, such as Vancouver 2017, and the resolutions of the UN Security Council, whereas she affirms that it's time for the implementation.
So what we mean by that is we have to understand all of those things that I was just explaining about making sure we have security sector who are knowledgeable and understand what prevention means, are even aware and awake to the fact that children may be recruited and used in this particular way, and why are those circumstances in existence before they face it in the field.
The Dallaire Institute has trained more than 15,000 people from various security agencies across the world in dealing with the problem of the use of children in the military, where Dr. Whitman finds that even if armed groups fight against others, they believe that while the recruitment and use of children in the armed groups is stopped, it would also help the community in many ways. According to Robert Nanima, the special envoy of the African Union, AU, believes that the governments should set long-lasting strategies to end the recruitment of children.
Until we are able to provide policy direction, legislation that protects children in areas of conflict, if they have moved out, even if they go to a country where there is no conflict, that there are policies in place that will speak to their right to life, survival and development. I think that would be a great way to improve. So in terms of a challenge, it's still a big challenge, but I think we should not cower from the challenge. Let's do what we can.
The latest report of Save Children shows that the number of children recruited and used in the military around the world has significantly rose up, whereas across the world, 450 million children were recruited in military, both in the armed forces of some countries and in armed rebel groups that are against various governments. 150 million of them are located on the African continent. This 3-day conference has the theme of placing the child at the heart of peace and security, from vision to action. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
To education matters, the administration of the National Secondary Examination and Schools Inspection Authority, NESA, explains that the performance of students during national exams is what determines the courses and schools to which they are admitted.
Nori Sahabo is senior 6 student at Fao Girls School, located in Gasawa district. She studies chemistry, physics and biology, where she wanted to study mathematics, physics and computer science, MPC.
It
was very difficult for me to study biology because it was really contrary to my desire and my dreams. But later, I became used to it, to the extent it's the only lesson in which I get high marks in class. Literally, I'm happy. Nsawanyima Gilbert, a teacher, says that when students are given faculties they didn't choose to study, it becomes difficult for them. There is someone who might get it, but still become a challenge for her to understand and find herself in those courses, while later the student might even change their courses. There are often voices of students saying that they were not given the courses they applied for, and others stating that they are studying at schools that are contrary to what they applied for. Kabate Sibiata, the Director of Selection and Placement in Schools at the National Secondary Examination and Schools Inspection Authority (NESA), explains more about this issue. The system might consider that if the student wants to study PCM in Lycée de Kigali, but you find PCM, it is only at St. Aloys, it will directly send him or her at St. Aloys. And this also applies to the selection of schools as well. The National Secondary Examination and Schools Inspection Authority (NESA) shows that TVET courses are being attended by many students who applied to study them, where last year more than 40% applied to study in TVET. But the problem is that their schools are still few comparing to the demand.
And this report sums up our tonight's edition, but before we leave, we'll finally give you a quick recap of our edition. Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente expressed the need for increased cooperation between African countries in order to make most out of existing development opportunities. The East African Legislative Assembly has expressed optimism in finding a lasting solution for the security issues in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And to international matters, the Malawi government has partnered with the UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, and the mobile service provider to help children in rural Malawi learn how to use the latest digital technology and means. And that's all from us here at RBA's Rwanda Television News. On behalf of the entire news production, as well as the technical team, many thanks for being with us on this edition. And we'll say up until next time, stay safe and have a great and blessed week ahead. Goodbye.